Okay, here we are, a little later than planned. But yeah, we are back here again to watch another edition of Crimewatch. This one is from November 1984. And I'm joined by my good friend Scott, aka Arcanix. How are you doing?
I am doing fine. I've brought my detective kit.
Excellent. And so we are going to be watching an episode of Crimewatch. So this is your trigger warning that do bear in mind that these are real cases with real victims. We will probably make some wise remarks about it, but we will always try and bear that in mind. Scott, anything you want to say before we start?
Not really. I'm just looking forward to seeing Delicious Nick.
Aren't we all? Let's hope we get there.
One of the men was particularly distinctive,
I'm
heavily
forward.
built, 5'10".
I was.
There we go.
Yeah, you see, absolutely seamless on this show.
Yep.
Absolutely no technical hiccups ever.
Came for the professionalism.
Hello, Yorkie.
Hey, Yoki.
Hello and welcome to Crimewatch, where you can help cut crime. These are all detectives behind me and they're waiting for your call. Here's the number. We'll give you local numbers for the police throughout the country, so have a pencil handy.
Remember, everything you see is fact. When we show you reconstructions, the detail is meticulous in the hope you just might spot a clue. We take you to the actual scene of the crimes, and wherever possible, the people you see are the real witnesses.
Now, if you think it's unlikely that you personally can help, well, experience tells us otherwise. Our first 4 programs have led directly to a number of arrests.
We'll watch the video,
way through dozens
then I'll ask you for your instant reaction.
Remember our reconstruction of the killing of the solicitor, Janice Weston, in a lay-by on the A1 last year?
We'll play on the little bit with the investigating detective, and then you can guess whether you think it's solved, unsolved,
he changed the wheel of Janice Weston's car at the lay-by on the A1 where she died. Police have asked us to appeal to him to call again in confidence. Here's the Crimewatch number, 01 811 8055, or ring the incident room, that's Peterborough 63232, 0733, the code for Peterborough 63232.
Remember,
don't ring that number.
He's raided 3 building societies in Leeds and Sheffield. There were 40 calls.
Do not ring that number.
Crimewatch, but the man is still on the loose
work.
and apparently still at it. Police have linked him with 3 new crimes. 4 weeks ago, at noon, he terrorised building society staff at Denton near Manchester. An hour later, he did the same at Glossop in Derbyshire. And 2 weeks later, he was at Salford. Here he is.
I had a helmet just like that when I was 17.
And if you know him, please do ring us. He may fire that gun one day.
Well, so that's what you were doing when you were 17.
And back in June, you may remember the Aladdin's Cave of stolen goods.
I'm not quite that old.
Well, not only have some of the items been identified, but 2 people have
we
been
will have an
charged
Aladdin's
with a series
Cave
of
coming
burglaries
up.
and committed for trial at Exeter Crown Court. There's another treasure trove of stolen goods for you to see tonight.
We start tonight with one of the most elaborate of crimes. It must have involved months of research and setting up, but it was over in about 3 minutes. The crooks are clearly dangerous, but they've profited to the tune of £500,000. We can show you exactly how it was done, because steps have now been taken to stop it happening again. Now, watch closely. If you can help solve this one, you could make yourself a fortune. There's a reward of almost £50,000. The story begins in
A couple of guitars.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our combined plant and commercial auction here on October the 1st.
The story begins on the first day of last month in Essex, at one of the busiest car and lorry auctions in the south of England. It was here that someone made what should have been a discreet transaction, but it didn't go unnoticed.
7.9 bid at 7. 7.25 against 7.50. 7.75 at 7.75 for the first. Second, third at 7.75. Can you sign with the young lady, please?
The man who bought that yellow lorry stood out at the auction. He had black, greased-back hair, he spoke with a West Midlands accent, and he wore a tie. Somehow he seemed too smartly
You'd never
dressed
wear a
for the
tie to
occasion.
an auction.
He was probably with two other men. The lorry
I'd never buy a yellow
200
yellow
miles to cover
lorry,
before it reached its final destination.
which was harder to say.
It does
when I
stand
thought.
out a bit, doesn't it?
It's 8:30 a.m. the next day, Tuesday, October the 2nd, and two men joined this blue Bedford van filling up at a petrol station at Market Drayton in Shropshire. One
I'm
of the
impressed.
men
They
was
seem to know
particularly
so much
distinctive,
about
heavily
the
built,
crime,
5 foot 10 inches tall, with
but
long
somehow
dark
they still
hair
need
and a
help.
striking Mexican-style moustache.
That's the guy from Spinal Tap.
It is, isn't it?
One witness also remembers the driver of the blue van. He was stockily built, in his late 30s, and he had light brown
That's
hair,
Art
which looked as though
Garfunkel.
it was receding at the sides.
I was going to say it's Shaggy.
He also wore a gold ring on his right hand.
Scooby-Doo, not the
Blue
other
van
guy.
had been stolen
Yeah.
from Leeds in June.
Yeah, I didn't think you meant the rapper.
Just after 10 a.m. that same day, on an industrial estate in Telford, a van driver noticed a stranger in the lorry park. He was
They
picking up
like their weird coloured
a
trucks.
white tipper truck. It had been parked there for a week.
This is a rainbow crime.
This lorry had been bought 12 days earlier at another auction in Measham in Leicestershire. It had an
Yeah, they
appointment
got
to keep in
purple,
just over
yellow,
2 hours'
blue,
time, and it set off into the heart of Shropshire along the A442
If only they
Whitchurch
could
Road.
find a pink vehicle.
It's not over yet.
It's later that same day, Tuesday, October the 2nd. It was lunchtime when this Group 4 armoured security van left the Shropshire town of Wem, travelling east to make another delivery.
When?
The journey took
Wem.
it over Western Crossroads
Wem
on the
indeed.
A49. That's the main trunk road
When will
from
this crime
Shrewsbury
be
to
solved?
Warrington. And that was where it passed a distinctive purple and white lorry.
What's he up to? He ain't gonna stop.
Yeah, so you took a risk going down a narrow country road like that.
There's another one behind us.
This could never happen today.
I mean they use like bulletproof glass in their vans now.
And
So
you
bullet
know,
resistant, I
the
should
money
say.
becomes useless anyway as soon as they
Yeah.
steal it.
Yeah. Yeah. Should say bullet resistant. There's no such thing as bulletproof glass.
He's got a shooter.
What they normally do is throw out dummy bags. So it looks like these guys weren't fooled by it.
In those few terrifying minutes, they disappeared with £454,000.
Scott, you got any immediate thoughts on that?
Just it's a very 80s robbery. It just I don't think you could really rob an armored car in that way anymore.
No.
Or are you asking whether I think it was solved?
Yeah, you have what do you think it's solved? Just anything you noticed about the crime Anything you thought was interesting about it?
The strange choice of buying distinctive vehicles.
They did buy very distinctive vehicles.
Most people would go for an undistinctive vehicle.
Yeah. I mean, one of them, admittedly, one of them they said was stolen, but the others were bought at an auction. I don't know what sort of security would you have at an auction. If someone buys something, if someone buys a car at an auction, do you need to get any? Surely you would need to get some details from them.
I think you have to show, if you're driving a car away, you have to show that you have a license and either insurance that covers you to drive any car or a temporary insurance on that car. But other than that,
there's again, this was the 80s, so maybe it's they were a bit more lax about things then. And also it was all very well planned though. They would have to have known. They would have to have known the movements of the van and known the route. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, they were very well organised.
I think it was solved, I've got to say.
Okay.
People don't get away with robberies.
Well, remember, if it's unsolved, there's still a chance you could get £50,000.
Yeah, I never get any winnings.
It'll be a nice earner for you.
Good. I could buy 2 Gibsons.
Notes. Now, just to recap, the yellow lorry came from Chelmsford and was driven 200 miles to the ambush point near the A49. That's not far from the Shropshire market town of Wem.
See, they look a long way to get that yellow van.
At Market Drayton, the blue getaway van was seen filling up. And at Telford, the distinctive purple lorry was driven away. At 12:15 that day, the Group 4 van set off from Wem, crossed the A...
Those graphics.
And this is where it finished up. Detective Superintendent Barry Main, let me make the point first of all. We obviously consulted you and Group 4 in some detail before showing that this sort of crime would
want some unsalted peanuts?
Certain steps have been taken to avoid a recurrence, yes.
Right, now, the lorries are obviously the best clues you have to go on. What information do you need?
Well, the yellow lorry, we believe, was driven up from the auction in Chelmsford into Shropshire on the 1st of October. It had a mechanical fault. It was losing oil and water, so it was necessary to stop fairly frequently.
So it was dropping oil and would have called in at
So it left a bit of a trail.
Somebody must have seen that vehicle.
OK, fine. And the blue getaway van, that had been stolen in Leeds?
That was stolen in Leeds on the 26th of June, and it must have been stored between that time and the 2nd of October. So where was it?
Right. Now, what about the man? We've got some not bad descriptions.
Really scoured the country
for
those
those
vehicles, didn't they?
in the auction. Now, we've got a fairly good description. That's the video fit you've got of him there.
Yes, now he's described as in his 30s. He's 5'6", he's clean-shaven, and as you see, his hair is greased and combed back.
Now, we've done a video fit here.
It's like one of the Crays.
Sallow complexion. What was meant by that?
Witnesses described him as looking ill.
As ill? Right,
yes.
Now that slicked back hair, obviously, if you were going to disguise yourself, maybe one of the first things you do is cream back your hair.
Well, I'd be doing that, but yes, it's possibly a disguise.
OK. Now, the other guy, he
Possibly
was
a disguise.
with this extraordinary moustache. Again, that presumably could have been a false moustache.
That's possible, yes.
Again, with the video fit, we can take that off. This guy's stockily built,
a real,
and that's the best
real moustache. Even in the 80s,
like
that was a pretty preposterous moustache.
The reward, it's enormous.
Yes, it is, up to £45,000 for any information concerning the robbery.
Tax-free, I presume?
I presume so, yes.
45,000? I thought Nick said 50,000.
He did.
Ring anonymously.
Yeah, Nick lied to me.
Yes, we'd like to hear from anyone who has information. Of course, if they want the reward, then we will require some detail.
Obviously,
Can't trust
you're going to have an address and a name for them if they want to get something of a reward. The number to call if you can help, here it is, 01811 8055. If you prefer, you can call the incident room at Wem Police Station. That's Wem 34100. 0939 341 00.
Okay. So.
I'm sticking with my solved because people tend to not get away with robberies. That's my logic.
Okay. Well, what I will say is, I would say this is partly solved. Could they still hear us? Should be back now. Right.
No.
Okay.
Damn.
Okay. Well, could you see what was on the screen? Please tell me at least that much.
Yes.
Okay.
And we are back, apparently.
Right. Okay. Right. Oh, so can't change sources. Okay. All right. I'll just bear that in mind. Okay. No problem. I've got the notes, so I can tell you what's been solved or not.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that case, it was solved, partly solved at least. One guy, Vincent Bingham, had been arrested, and he got sentenced to 15 years.
So he didn't give the others up.
All right. So, all right. So by my estimate, there should still be some of that reward money available.
Enough for a guitar?
All right. Okay. All right. We'll just go on to the next part now.
Okay.
Now tonight's Aladdin's Cave.
I'll
We
just
have
have
a
to read
treasure
out
trove here of
what I
property
know.
that's been recovered by police, and maybe something belongs to you. This month's collection has come from Gloucestershire's police, and together with some silver from Hertfordshire. But since police believe all of it to be stolen property, it could have come from anywhere in Britain. We'll show you as many of the items as we can, and here's John Bly of the Antiques Roadshow to pick out some of the more unusual ones.
Well, once again, we've
Here
got
we
an
go.
extraordinary mixture of objects. Here, for example,
The Aladdin's
look at
Cave.
these
Look out
lovely
for
little
some
penknives, all collected with
lovely
great love and care,
stuff.
each one separate and different. You know, somebody's bound to miss that little collection. They're also
Are they?
going to miss this collection of mugs. Very popular, coronation and jubilee mugs. Again, they'd leave quite a space on someone's shelf. Now, as usual, we've got a large representation from the East. From Japan, we've got two very fine coffee services. This one, particularly wonderful quality from Satsuma. Over here, we've got also from Japan two figures of Butai, the god of happiness. This one's been made into a lamp, but he still looks fairly
He's a jolly
cheerful about
fellow.
it. And from China, from
At least he
Canton,
didn't call him Buddha.
we've got a tea service. Now,
That's true.
Canton, although it means the place of origin, it also
Mind you,
describes the
an
type of
antiques expert
decoration.
like that,
It's gold,
you'd hope he wouldn't make
multicoloured
such a
enamel
silly
on top,
mistake.
interspersed with very busy panels. An important little service from about 1890, from China up to the Mediterranean, and our only piece of furniture this time. But it's distinctive. It's a Savonarola.
My God, they steal some ugly things.
So that really ought to stand out in someone's
Don't they just?
collection. But what I really want to talk to you about is this group of cloisonné ware. Now, cloisonné is quite valuable. It's a late development in decoration. Cloison is the name of the little wire that intersperses the colour, the decoration itself. Sounds like a French breakfast, but it's not. Cloisonné is the type of ware it is.
French breakfast.
Now, this is quite valuable today. It would date from about 1890. And if perfect, that vase would be, oh gosh, between 500 and 600 pounds. But it's not. It's damaged just on the shoulder. Perhaps that one might jog someone's memory. Now to some silver. We've got here a pair of fish servers in a case. But I wonder how many people know what those are. Well, those actually are a pair of Victorian asparagus servers. They're no means rare, but they're not common either. Now, from my own home county of Hertfordshire, I've been asked to just show you this collection of silver and plate. This lot is worth over £10,000. But what I really want to talk about is this wine ewer. This typical piece of fine quality 1860 silverware, made in 1859, in fact, by George Angel, was made for Dr. Morris Day from Worcester. And it bears the inscription on it to that effect. So it's unique, and let's hope it'll jog someone's memory. Remember, all of these things are stolen from anywhere. So if you recognise something, call us on Crimewatch UK. The number to call if you
I mean,
do recognise
that's a pretty big
anything,
clue. It's got a guy's name on it.
811 8055.
3 weeks.
So, Scott, anything you had your eye on there?
No, it may be that I have no taste, but pretty much everything there was absolutely disgustingly, horribly gaudy. I wouldn't have any of it.
That's what I thought. I was like, sometimes, you get a good haul, but for that, yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, nothing I really wanted out of that.
You didn't fancy the fish server then, or the asparagus things?
Yeah, and asparagus. Imagine that's so wasteful. It's just a tool, just for serving asparagus.
Yeah.
And basically, it's just a pair of tongs anyway.
Yep. And apparently, they're not rare.
Are they not rare?
Loads of them.
Okay. Well, now we know all about antique asparagus servers.
For serving antique asparagus.
The victim was a woman, a mother of 2, and she'd been missing from home since early June. Shelley Morgan was an American by birth, but had married and lived here in Britain for 12 years. She and the children had only recently moved to Bedminster, a suburb of Bristol. Her husband planned to join them when he'd finished renovating their family home in Wales in order to sell it. Shelley was an artist, and things had been going very well for her. She'd had a commission from an art dealer to paint these views of Bristol, and she had one left to finish, a view of the Clifton Suspension Bridge. Our reconstruction begins at Shelley's home on the day that she went missing, the morning of Monday, the 11th of June.
That's it. Thank you. That's it, darling.
I'm ready.
Good. I'm nearly ready. I'm just going to do a bit of packing.
What are you taking that for, Mum?
My camera? Well, you know that bridge I showed you the other day, that pretty one near Clifton?
Oh, yeah, that big one.
Well, that's the last of my sketches.
Yeah.
And if I take some photographs, and I can
listen to her talk there. Where would you have guessed she was from?
Okay. Come on.
I don't know. I wasn't listening to the accent.
Apparently she's...
Good morning.
Well, apparently she's American.
Come on, darling.
I mean, she had a go. She had a go at the accent.
I'd forgotten she was supposed to be American.
What time?
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Morning, Mrs. Morgan. Morning, Mrs. Newcomb.
Yeah, she sounds Irish. Northern Irish, maybe.
Yeah, it's the most un-American American accent.
A couple of hours after seeing her children off to school, sometime between 10 and 11 a.m., Shelley Morgan called into the sorting office in Kent Street to collect a registered letter.
I've got a banker's card.
The letter contained money from her husband, which he sent every week while he was away working on their house in Wales.
Thank you. Bye.
She's got quite a distinctive look,
went next
admittedly,
has
hasn't
not
she?
been fully
With
established.
the
However,
big
a
red
witness
Sue
travelling on
Pollard
this
glasses.
bus thinks she saw someone...
It might not have been quite as distinctive back then, though.
10 that morning.
No.
She remembered the woman because of her long fair hair and her distinctive red glasses. If indeed it was Shelley Morgan, that bus would have taken her to the centre of Bristol and the bus station. Police would like to hear from anyone who may have spotted Shelley after 11 o'clock that morning. If she did plan to photograph the Clifton Suspension Bridge, she could have got a bus from here.
You ever been to Bristol?
Yeah, but not...
Children came home from school. Their mother
I was only there for a couple of hours, so
locked and empty.
Didn't really get a proper idea of what it was like.
Neighbor took them into her house to
well,
wait for her. As
most
time went
people,
on, it
they
became
only
increasingly
go through
clear that
Bristol
something
on
was
their
very
way
wrong.
to Wales.
At 7:30 p.m. that Monday, the 11th of June, Shelley Morgan was officially registered as a missing person. Months went by, birthdays passed, and still no word from Shelley. Fears were becoming expectations. Then on Monday, the 24th of September, police headquarters in Bristol received this dramatic phone call.
I got some very important information about the missing woman from Windmill Hill. But unfortunately, this is going to turn out to be a murder inquiry. The body is in a watery grave. I'm not certain whereabouts too. It's in Hannam River between the bottom of Conham Hill and the Old
I can confirm that is the real phone call that that was sent into the police.
Had to take this call seriously. Immediately, they launched an underwater search team to look for the body. After 19 days, their intensive search revealed nothing.
Tell me when you're ready to leave bottom, over.
The call about the stretch of river at Hannam had been a hoax. Then just 2 days later, police were speeding west of the suspension bridge where Shelley had intended to take photographs, and west of Bristol to Backwell, just 8 miles from where Shelley lived.
Why would you call in a hoax like that?
Their destination
People are weird.
In Backwell, Avon. The missing person inquiry had become a murder investigation. On Sunday, the 14th of October, 3 small children found a badly decomposed body. It was Shelley Morgan. Missing from the scene were her clothing, glasses and bag containing her camera, sketchbooks and the registered letter from her husband. The body was found not in a watery grave, but at Watercatch Farm. A full-scale police investigation to find her killer has now begun. Shelley Morgan's father speaks for the first time about his daughter's death.
Well, the biggest irony of this whole thing is that for 12 years, during which time Shelley was here,
I'm not sure if that is her real father, but
we knew that she was here in a very highly civilized,
but at least he does do an
country,
actual American accent.
Surrounded by
if he's not
goodwill and honesty and generally well-ordered community, and we simply did not have to worry about our daughter. Of course, now this is all gone. She's
slightly naive.
We can't bring her back.
You can never think you're 100% safe all the time.
Those who are still here.
No.
We feel that this person is an extreme menace to just about anyone. And we hope that anyone who might someday or somehow know something about this person, that they will be able to come forward to the police and convey this information to them.
Well, Detective Superintendent, the anonymous caller who called you had a local accent. Do you think he would have had anything to do with Shelley's death, in fact?
Well, we won't know until...
So, anything immediate that strikes you about that, Scott?
Yeah, a couple of things. The hoax call, was it a coincidence that they said that they'd be found in a watery grave, and then the name of the farm they were found on was Waterford or whatever it was? Maybe they overheard someone talking about it, Waterford something or other, or
I hadn't picked up on that.
I was just suggesting maybe it's not entirely a hoax.
Yeah. I mean, that may just be coincidental, but
Although,
yeah, I hadn't noticed that.
I mean, it still involves lying about where the body was. So either way, it's still.
Yeah. I mean, they did give a location along the river. The body would be between.
I think also
that's
that
yeah.
I've seen something about this in recent years.
Okay.
The name is ringing a bell.
Okay.
So
well,
I suspect that must mean either they caught someone, which I think I would remember better, or they reappealed.
Okay. All right. Well, let's hear what Detective Superintendent Lou Clark has to say, and then and then you can make your final guess, and I'll tell you whether it's solved or unsolved.
Okay.
We trace him. I
Yorkie
wouldn't have
already
thought
thinks
so.
it's unsolved.
But it is very strange that he phones us 3 months after her disappearance. Why? Why was he phoning us at that time? Is there some little piece of information that he's got that he wanted us to be interested in? We won't know until we find him.
If it is a hoax and he comes forward, will he prosecute him?
Maybe it's your theory.
Of course not. We're dealing with a murder inquiry.
It was buried
All we want to do
inside
is
his
arrive
call.
at the truth, and that's it. So if he is watching, please contact us and we'll resolve it and find out what it was all about.
Now, you're sure that she was killed on the actual day she disappeared, on June the 11th. What was the motive for her murder, do you believe?
Well, it has all the appearance of sex. She was naked apart from her shoes and a pair of tights, face down in a copse. Her clothing's gone somewhere. We're still carrying out certain tests, but there's little doubt that it must have been a sexual attack and then a murder.
So what exactly do you need the public's help with? The clothing's missing, as you say. Do you think somebody might have found that?
Anything and everything, anything that anybody knows about her movements.
Clothing's
Perhaps
probably
the man
burnt.
responsible is already in prison and has talked to somebody. Anybody who's got a lodger they're worried about, a woman who's had a bad experience in a car, somebody trying to pick her up in a car. That's the one thing we are certain of. She must have been taken there in a car, and at that time she was either alive or she was dead.
That bag is very distinctive, isn't it? That might provide a clue.
It is. That bag was made from a blueprint that her mother supplied from materials that we found at her home, very similar to the one she had. As you've already said, her dress is missing, her red spectacles are missing, the registered envelope is
it's a
missing.
bit of a mishmash
All
of
those items
materials.
are somewhere. Her clothing is somewhere.
And the most
A
valuable of all,
patchwork.
of course, is the camera.
That was the word I
This
was
is the
looking
most
for.
vital clue that we have got, as you said. This is an identical camera. It's an Olympus, as you see. It's an OM20 camera.
What struck you about the camera, Scott?
Please give us 2 minutes of your time.
Oh, you have a cut. What?
Because
Just like that one?
There's only one camera in the world that's got the number 1032853 on it.
Maybe
It's
if you can
stamped
dig it
there on
out,
metal at
check the
bottom
serial
here.
number on it.
That camera was stolen from her. Please take
it was recent.
time after
It wasn't
the
you.
program
It
to
wasn't
look.
back then.
If you've acquired a camera, 11th, check it. And any dealer that's watching, will you please take a note of that number and check your stock in the morning?
Detective Superintendent, thank you very much indeed. The number to ring is 01811 8055, or you can call the incident room in Bristol, which is
pause you there, Sue.
854011.
All right.
Yeah, I had the OM20 about
Is that what you think
a
about
year ago.
anything else? Or? Wow, that is quite. You still use a film cameras?
Yeah, and there's my
wow.
dual lens camera. Yeah, I still use
wow, that's
film.
Okay.
I'm not entirely
Not
sure.
many places. Yeah.
But I am even more convinced now that this is something in the last couple of years that I've seen on something in The Guardian, maybe, or something. So I'm going to guess that this is still unsolved.
You're going with unsolved, and
either that or it came up because it's solved. But
okay, yeah, you are correct. It is unsolved. And yeah, the reason you probably heard about it quite recently was because a new appeal was launched for it, for any information for her murder in June of this year. And so,
I knew I wasn't imagining it.
So they're still, yeah, so they're still looking for information. And if you want to know more, there is a whole website you can go to look for more details, and that is ShelleyMorganMurder.com. I mean, it's quite a morbid name, but yeah, you can find all the information on there. And like I say, they did launch a new appeal this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't actually read it or anything like that, but the name stuck out.
Yeah.
0272
It sort of sounds like an actress's name as well.
And if you live in Bristol, you can ask the operator for free phone emergency incident room.
So I think it's kind of a
now
memorable
the
name.
Crimewatch incident desk, where we invite the police to appeal to you directly. Tonight, we start with a major new request for help in the investigation into the bomb attack at Brighton. Here are Chief Inspector David Hatcher and Detective Constable Helen Phelps.
So
the Brighton bomb inquiry depends on eliminating.
So it's the Brighton.
If somehow
the
you
Conservative Party.
don't know what, yeah, if somehow you don't know what the Brighton bombing is. So just to clarify, so the Brighton bombing happened on 12th of October 1984, and this episode went out on the 6th of November. So,
and if you don't know what the Brighton bombing is, it was the IRA bombed the Conservative Party conference in Brighton.
Yeah.
Everyone who stayed at the Grand Hotel since July the 1st. But that's been made more difficult
you the
because,
details.
for whatever reason, many people registered under false names. Sussex police have asked Crimewatch to make a special appeal for one man who booked in using the name Roy Walsh. On September the 15th, 16th and 17th, just 3.5 weeks before the bombing, he stayed in room 629, the room where the bomb was planted. Detective Chief Superintendent Jack Rees, who's heading the inquiry, has joined us here in the Crimewatch studio. And if the man who gave his name as Roy Walsh rings,
catch you later, Yorkie.
now Mr. Rees guarantees that his call
is
treated in absolute confidence. He also wants to hear from Mr. Walsh's companion that weekend, the 15th to the 17th of September, and anyone else who thinks they may know who Roy Walsh is.
And your help is urgently needed in tracking down a man who raped an unemployed girl 3 weeks ago on...
Okay, let's just go over the Brighton bombing. Obviously, as you've already said, yeah, it was carried out by the IRA. So it was the Grand Hotel in Brighton during the Conservative Party conference in 1984. So in the bomb attack, 5 people were killed, including Conservative MP Anthony Berry, and there was over 30 people injured, including Norman Tebbett's wife, who was paralysed for life in the attack. Margaret Thatcher escaped unscathed, and she still went on to give her conference speech that year. So I don't know if you would agree with this or not, Scott, but I think that sort of helped Thatcher's reputation, actually, establishing her as the Iron Lady.
Absolutely, it did, yes.
So I think so. In a weird way, she did benefit from that. A very morbid way, but I think it did add to her mythos.
It did, yeah. She gained a lot of popularity. Not that she needed it, but for the fact that she, came through a bombing and unscathed, as it were.
Yeah.
Yeah, just point out that this guy has just talked about the rape of an unemployed girl, as if that is relevant that she's unemployed.
Okay, we'll get to that in a moment, and you will see why that is relevant to it.
I thought it was like last week when they referred to as spinster.
Yeah, I thought when they kept referring to her as a spinster, when they were going through the newspaper reports where they called her a spinster. Yeah, I just thought that was unnecessary. Anyway, I just wanted to so to wrap up on the Brighton bombing, yeah. So Doom's already put the name in the name of the chat, and Patrick McGee, who's the leader of the who was the leader in the bombing. In the report, Helen Phelps said they were trying to identify Roy Walsh. That is the name, the false name that Patrick McGee checked into the hotel with. He was actually booked in 3 weeks prior to the bombing. It was so the bomb was set up on a long delay timer, and McGee, when he was eventually caught, he was given 8 life sentences, but he was released in 1999 as part of the Good Friday Agreement. So I didn't think this didn't really format to get too political on here, but I guess that is the dark side of the Good Friday Agreement. We generally don't like to
there were
talk about.
some people released on both sides that may turn heads if you knew what they'd done.
That's what I mean. There's yeah, because we do talk about it, the Good Friday Agreement as a great move forward, but we do sort of ignore that it means there are a lot of bad people let off their crimes.
Indeed.
So we'll move on to the rape of the unemployed girl.
Tuesday, October the 16th.
You'll see why that's relevant.
The well-spoken, middle-aged city gent first approached the 18-year-old girl on Monday the 15th of October as she left the job centre in Erdington in Birmingham. Smartly dressed in a blue-grey suit and calling himself Mr. Day, he invited the girl to come for an interview for a job as a receptionist. But his calculated plan had started a week earlier when he gained the keys and access to an empty shop at 38 Marsh Lane, Erdington. He then placed advertisements, this is one of them, in various local newsagents. The number for applicants to call was this phone box on the corner of Membury Road and Washwood Heath Road. Did you see a man hanging around this box between the 10th and the 16th of October? On Tuesday the 16th, that the girl he had met at the job centre kept her appointment at the Marsh Lane shop where she was assaulted. The man we're looking for is 45 to 50 years old, 5 foot 10 inches tall, well built and of smart appearance. There's evidence that he may have been driving a white ex-registered Metro, and he claims to come from outside the area. If you know anyone who fits this description and was in Birmingham between the 10th and the 16th of October, please ring us.
So I'm not going to make any wise comments about that one.
It took me a moment to realise that he didn't have long hair. I thought the shading behind him was long hair.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously, the relevance of the girl being unemployed was that he was specifically targeting unemployed women. Yeah. So unfortunately, I don't know if this one is solved or not. I do hope it was.
It's quite a nasty, horrible thing to do to people.
Yeah.
Especially, well, I don't know why it's worse. It seems worse to pick on people who think that they've got a chance for a job out of it as well, but
yeah,
it does seem worse than
yeah.
Yeah.
But one thing I did think, so he had an office, so he would have had to have leased that from someone.
Yeah.
So I would say he's obviously he must have done it under under a false name.
Yeah, or back then.
But I have to assume that the freeholders weren't doing any background checks.
Back then, if you paid by cash, really, you didn't need to prove very much at all.
Yeah. So that was just something I thought about that. But yeah, I'll just move on from there.
The Securicor van arrived at Norman's Cash and Carry in Christchurch, Dorset, to make a routine collection. The van was attacked, and as this police reconstruction shows, the driver was shot in the leg. The vital clue, which you can help with, are these overalls, which were dropped at the scene during the attack. Just here, on the inside of the pocket, there is a name. It's hard to make out the writing now, but by close examination, you can see that the name is B. Gregory. B. Gregory may know nothing about the armed attack, but he or she may well be able to put police on the trail of the armed robbers. Let us know if you have
Do you know any B.
idea
Gregorys?
who B. Gregory might be.
I know a Gregory B.
We four faces. We want you to take a close.
So that one, yeah, I couldn't find any confirmation whether that one had been solved. I'd also like to point out because that's the second sort of security van robbery we've seen in this. But at least you might say with the first one, you might say, I'm sure it was scary for those involved, but at least no one was hurt. The second guy got shot in the leg, so that was a lot more brutal. But yeah, I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't know. Hopefully, it will come up on a future edition that they have found them. So these are people they're looking for. They're not all related, by the way.
Among the Crimewatch photo call faces this month are these two. The robbery squad have asked us to appeal to anyone who may have seen these two men. On the left,
I mean, they're not connected, I mean.
And on the right, Stefan Raczynski. Both of these men escaped from Harrow Police Station on Wednesday the 3rd of October, where they were waiting to appear in court on charges connected with an armed robbery. Both men may be armed and should certainly not be approached. If you think you've seen them, you can ring us in confidence here on Crimewatch UK.
And have you seen this man?
Okay, so what do you think, Scott? Do you think those guys were caught again or not?
Absolutely. Of course they were.
You're right, they were. They were caught a few months later, and eight people got jailed for assisting them in their escape.
Wow.
Yeah. So there you go. It was a big operation to get them out.
His name's John Goldie, and police believe he may be able to help them with their inquiries into the theft of £52,000 from a Securicor van in Coventry on the 7th of June this year. He speaks with a Scottish accent and has a tattoo, Scotland Forever, on the left forearm and Gloria on his right hand.
I think he might be Scottish.
He was last spotted at Alnwick in Northumberland on the 4th of July.
Does seem possible.
And the third picture we want you to study was...
Okay, we'll get into that one. So, John Goldie, do you think they caught him or not?
Yeah, again, I'm going to go, yeah. Yeah, they did.
They did catch him. Not until January 1987.
Wow.
And yeah. Yep, so 2.5 years later, they did eventually find him. Now, I was able to find out he did go on trial for the theft of £52,000, but I haven't been able to find out if he was convicted or not. I mean, to be honest, I say in all likelihood he probably was.
Yeah, I would have thought so.
But I can't confirm it. And now we move on to
the rock star.
Yeah, well, looks like Elton John falling on hard times.
Taken at the Baker Street branch of the Newcastle Building Society in London's West End. At 3:45 p.m. on Wednesday the 22nd of August, this man threatened staff with a handgun, demanded cash, and then walked out with the gun and the cash in his plastic bag. If if we zoom right in on our enlarged print, we get such a good look at the robber's face that someone must surely recognise him, despite his dark glasses. Ring us here if you recognise him. Someday he may use his gun. He's about 5'8" tall and has sandy hair. And call us if you recognise...
So, I won't waste time on that. Yeah, I don't know on this one. I haven't been able to. I haven't been able to find out whether he was captured, caught or not.
It is quite a good photograph. If you know him, you would spot him, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, if you know him, you would definitely recognise. He's got, even with the glasses, he's got quite a distinctive face. You can see he's going bald.
You see his hairline.
He's doing the whole sweep to the side, which doesn't fool anyone.
Yep.
Yeah, you definitely know him.
any of the faces in our photo call.
And if you have any information on any of those cases, call us here on 01811 8055. 01811 8055.
Our next and our last reconstruction tonight is a crime that police already know is going to be a very hard one to crack. It seems to have been a professional killing, a cold-blooded execution almost. Now, you may not know who did it, but you might know of a motive or have a clue. The victim was Lloyd Simpson, a Londoner, and if you're an East Ender, you might have seen him walking Yank, his American pit bull terrier, in Victoria Park in Hackney.
It's Guy Fawkes murder.
Night a year ago. Lloyd was watching television. Outside, there was a fireworks party, a noisy one. This film might prick someone's conscience. And Lloyd's father is so anxious and determined to have the killers caught that he's decided to relive what happened with an actor playing the part of his son.
I might ask you for your opinion on something at the end of this.
Lloyd, can you get them sacks for me? Colour in there and white in there. All right, then. I'm a waste paper dealer. I collect waste paper, cardboard, and I do transport. So Lloyd worked for me. Just got to make a quick phone call. Lloyd was with me Friday afternoon.
Steptoe and son here, doesn't
I asked him if
I was thinking that. I just didn't know if you would get the reference.
I will.
Oh, I know Steptoe and son. And you know, even if I don't get it, someone watching might.
Now it's turned into Minder.
When I arrived at the pub, he was sitting at the bar.
Was it? It was
drinking his little
Winchester, wasn't it? That was where he used to go.
And his cigar.
Yeah.
But he never seemed worried, never seemed anything like that. He seemed happy enough. On the Saturday, what he done, he brought the car back. Then he's locked the car up, and then he's took the dog and gone his usual way. That's gone over the flyover, right, into Victoria Park, and gone down towards home.
Oh, easy. Easy, boy, easy. Long way to go yet, mate. Come on.
Bit excited, isn't he?
Come on. Yeah, back forward. Get your legs on. Yes. Go on. Who's that? Go on. Go on. See if you can get him. Go on. Go on. You can do better than that. Go on.
Yane is a wonderful dog. He's an American pit bull terrier. They're a nice, friendly dog, provided you keep them away from other dogs. They seem to want to fight other dogs.
They do.
I can't stop. I'll see you later on, all right?
They are valuable dogs. I would say they're at £500–600. They're supposed to be brought into this country for fighting.
There is a lot of information being given about the dog, isn't there?
I know the Yankees never fight because Yank's only 11. He was only 11 months old.
That's just something I noticed when watching it.
Now, as he goes down the canal, this is where he's met Chrissy Roberts before he's gone home. And that's all I can tell you about that part of it.
All right, mate? Yeah, hello, Chris. All right, gang? He's doing all right.
Yeah, he looks good.
Like new harness?
Yeah, lovely. Where you get that?
Well, I bought it today, just down the road. Yeah? Yeah.
Handsome.
I'll tell you what, I've got his old one indoors. You can have that if you want.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I'll drop it off a bit later on.
Lovely. Right, where you been?
I'll just drop the motor off down the old man's.
Yeah? Yeah.
As it goes, I better get him home, get him some dinner, like.
Yeah, look
all right?
hungry.
I'll see you later, all right? Good luck, mate.
Chrissy was the
Stay
last one
lucky.
to see him alive. That was about 1:30. Then he went home. Whether he went straight home, that I wouldn't know.
Come on, you. Up. Come on. Give it time. Give it time, boy. You enjoyed that, didn't you? Huh? You enjoyed that little monkey, didn't you? Yeah, that's a good boy.
I will have a question for you at the end of this. All as well, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
I had a long conversation with Doom last week about firework displays.
I was there.
Oh, were you there for that one?
Yeah.
My memory.
Crikey.
Oh, that's a bit. It's quite brutal, isn't it? She's not too concerned, obviously. Brian Glover makes an appearance.
As far as we know, he laid there from the Saturday to the Sunday, and from the Sunday to the Monday.
The way they've presented it, looks like he
I went
was
in the flat and I found
specifically targeted.
Yeah.
I went through the door, and then I shouted out, "Lloyd!"
But
Lloyd,
I don't
where
know.
are
That
you?
might
Lloyd.
just be dramatic
And I don't know
license
his
they've
line.
used.
You know, when you think the walls are so thin, and our people don't hear anything with like a shotgun going off, it's hard to believe that no one couldn't hear anything. I
And plus it was fireworks.
that no one don't know.
I hear you saying that. Yeah,
Someone
that's
out there must
the
know.
only
And I
qualifier I
know
would give
if someone
is
do know, but they're as bad as them who killed him.
because it was fireworks night. People
Well,
might have
because
thought
why was he killed? What was the
might have
motive?
thought it was a firework going off. But yeah, I do appreciate what you're saying, but I think there might be a small qualifier to that. But one thing I want to ask about is that reconstruction, because obviously that was Lloyd Simpson. That was his actual dad in that video, narrating it all. Do you think that sort of video has more emotional impact than the standard reconstructions? Doom's going unsolved.
I'd say so. Sometimes, but in that particular case, he comes across as very calm, and it's probably no different to if it wasn't him actually doing it.
I mean, I think he comes across calm, but I also get a sense that he is still very much hurting. So
Oh yeah.
I feel that I just feel an appeal like that has more emotional weight to it.
In general,
Maybe
I'd
maybe
agree.
if there is someone who does know something, they it might be more likely to prick their conscience.
The little touches where he says things that relate to his actual son rather than just describing facts probably make a difference.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. I just wanted to get your opinion on that because it was just something I was thinking when I watched it. So I was
If
playing
I
what
knew
the
why Lloyd
detective
Simpson was
knows.
killed, I'm convinced I would be very close to finding those responsible. Quite clearly, he was killed for something he had in his possession. I think it may be drugs or something like that, because his premises had been searched very thoroughly and in what appears to be a frenzied way. And those responsible probably found what they were looking for. But it must have been something very important for them to kill Lloyd Simpson for.
He wasn't expecting anyone, was he?
He certainly wasn't. All indications are that he was sitting watching television quite comfortably with his shoes off, watching Saturday afternoon television.
So he hadn't made an appointment. I mean, could they have known that he was going to be there? Might he have met them that afternoon?
I don't think so. They could see him from the veranda by looking straight through the kitchen window. They could see him sitting there clearly through the beaded curtain, and they then kicked the door in, went in and shot him.
Now, apart from the neighbour, no one saw him, no one heard him?
It's quite a brutal murder.
That seems to be the case.
Unless, of course, people were frightened to tell you about it.
Yes, this may well be so. If anyone is too frightened to come forward and to give me their name and address, they can do so, obviously, anonymously or in complete confidentiality.
And, of course, they can talk to a civilian if they're too frightened to talk to a police officer. So the motive is really the key thing. You need to find out why he died, and then you'll know who killed him.
Yes, that would be a big step forward. Quite clearly, those responsible were very calculating. They chose the night very carefully because of the fireworks going off at the time, and they were thoroughly
It seemed like it was all planned out.
Those of his father, and say that if any of you know why Lloyd Simpson was killed, whatever he had in his possession, please contact us as soon as possible.
All right, Bill Peters, thanks very much. You can call us here at Crimewatch on 01 811 8055. Or you can ring the City Road Police direct at City Road on 48.
So, yeah, you got any thoughts? I mean, to me, it seems like it was quite organised.
Yeah.
I feel like they put. I feel like they were sort of subtly putting a lot of emphasis on the dog in their video, talking about how they were brought over for fighting and whatnot, which didn't really seem like necessary detail. So I don't know if they were trying to hint at something with that.
I mean, it is true, and there were illegal dogfights going on. I mean, even where I live, it happened. So I'm sure it was happening in the East End of London.
Yeah, so I don't know. They thought maybe he was involved in that.
It could have been related to that. I mean, it is all about gambling and money. Or, as the copper then said, it could have been something to do with drugs. He might have been selling drugs on the side, or he bought drugs on the side.
That's always possible. He could have been dealing. Yeah. So, yeah. Do you want to guess whether this one is solved or unsolved?
I've got nothing to go on with this one. I'm just going to randomly guess solved.
Unfortunately, it is unsolved. So, like Doom guessed in the chat, it is an unsolved. So they did put out a new appeal for information last year in December 2023. I got here. The police did launch a new appeal. But on a lighter note, the actor they had playing Lloyd Simpson in the reconstruction Did he look familiar to you?
Yes, but I didn't know from where. But he did
Okay.
look like somebody I'd known. And
Yeah.
his voice
Yeah.
also sounded familiar.
Okay. All right. I'll tell you where you might likely know him from. So the actor is called Patrick Murray,
Right.
and he is best known for playing Mickey Pierce in Only Fools and Horses.
Mickey Pierce. Sure. Oh, yes, of course it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, he and because Only Fools and Horses would be in. I looked it up. They'd had 3 series at that point, so he'd already been in a couple of episodes when he done this.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought he came into it a bit later, actually, but
Yeah, no, I did. I had to look up. His first appearance was in series 3, which broadcast in 1983.
see, that's where my mistake was. I thought it only started about in 1984. So
No, it started in 1981. So yeah, I just thought that was a interesting little bit I found out.
now you say that's why the voice stuck out to me.
7-1.
Yeah.
That's 4, 8.
Yeah.
And all the numbers are on CFAX on page 185 for the rest of the week. If you don't have
So,
a
you know,
phone or can't get
at least
through,
we get
drop us a
to
line.
end on
All
a
letters will be
light note.
treated in confidence. Here's the
Yeah,
address:
a lot of
Crimewatch
murder
UK,
tonight.
BBC TV,
Yeah,
8QT.
probably so. And
The main number is easy to remember, and we're here all evening, remember?
a very
Please ring if you
significant
think you can help
historical
in
event
any
as
way.
well.
In fact, as always, we'll be back to tell you what develops in an hour from now. That's Crimewatch UK Update, here on BBC One at 11:05.
In fact, I've just been told we've had 30 calls so far on the battering ram attack on the Group 4 security wagon, with lots of new information. And we've had several calls on the Brighton bomb too. One man has called who may be of particular interest. We're still looking for Mr. Roy Walsh, or whoever it was who booked into the hotel.
Roy
under
Walsh,
that
as I
name.
said
If
earlier,
you did
was the
so,
pseudonym
please do
used
call
by
us,
Patrick McGee.
8055. We'll be back with more update, as Sue was saying, at 11:05. If you can't stay up till then, do please believe us as we leave you with what's become something of a familiar reassurance on Crimewatch. Even though it doesn't seem like it at times, Britain is still one of the safest countries on earth, and the sort of crimes that we've asked your help with really are extremely rare. In fact, from the sort of response that we've already had, it's just possible that after all your calls tonight will be just a tiny bit safer still. So please, don't have nightmares. Good night.
Good night.
Well,
yeah. What Nick was saying there, that about actually, despite what you see, the Britain is actually relatively safe. There is a name for that. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but they have been studies into this where they've had people they see all these violent crimes happening on TV, and as a result they believe that the UK has become less safe when actually all the official statistics show it's a
the
lot
same
safer.
in America for years. The news just been full of, following car chases and crime and crime and crime. So when they ask the average person, their estimation of how much crime there is way too high. And
yeah, absolutely. I saw a thing is that Republican voters think crime has gone up about 90% when it's actually gone down. Yeah, so that's it for this edition of Crimewatch. So how have you found it?
I enjoyed it. I don't think I did particularly well with guessing. I think I got one right, maybe 1.5.
I count you got 1, 2. You got 3. I'm not going to include the Brighton bombing because pretty much everyone knows that one. So yeah, that one doesn't count. But I mean, you've done okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll just wrap this up. We will both be back on Wednesday at 8 p.m. on 8 out of 10 Cats' channel. That's Cats with a Z at the end. To do the
I will be beating you in the
quiz.
quiz.
Yeah, I might go easy on you. But yeah, so that'll wrap it all up. Anything you want to say before you go, Scott?
Thank you for watching.
And remember, don't have nightmares.
Good night.